Welcome to the Ramchal School, the writings of the Amsterdam period between 1735 and 1743. Today, I am going to speak about the well-known book called Derech Hashem, The Way of God. We don't have an exact date as when the manuscript was written. There's only one manuscript and it has no date. However, within the text, Ramchal alludes to a book we spoke about earlier, Derech Chochmah, The Way of Wisdom, which was written in 1738. So at least we know from that, we can infer that Derech Hashem, the Way of God, was not written before 1738, but sometime afterwards. How should we define the Way of God as a book? So this may be a little shocking, but I would define it as a catechism. By the Christians, a catechism is a manual of religious instruction. And the reason why I define it as such is because, as we know, the Marranos, or the old Marranos, were, as new Christians, really knew about those kind of catechism, where the principles of faith were taught, and other things about religion. In this book, Ramchal doesn't speak about what to do. It's not a book of halacha, of practical law, but rather about what to know and what to believe. It's basically a digest of beliefs and opinions. The book is divided in 4 parts. First, we have what he calls the fundamentals of reality, which speaks about God, creation, humankind, etc. Second, we have providence. Third, we have prophecy. And fourth, we have worship. I am not going to speak about what's in the book, but rather, and perhaps surprisingly, about what's missing in it. Ramchal doesn't say a word about the Mashiach. He mentions the Mashiach only 2 times in that period, in the Amsterdam period. Once in his commentary on the prayers of Rosh Hashanah, and second time in the Ma'amar HaIkarim, the essay on principles. But those are very short, 2 short mentions, and in Derech Hashem, which deals with principles like God, providence, judgment, resurrection, etc., we would expect something about messianism. So when we compare the Padua period in Italy, where Ramchal mentions the Mashiach countless times, with the Amsterdam period, where he mentions it only twice and in a very short manner, there's an obvious gap between the 2 periods, and this needs an explanation. And it's not because some might think that Ramchal was accused of posing as a messianic figure, that he now would abstain to speak about it. He could have had written a paragraph about it in an objective manner. There's nothing wrong with believing in the Mashiach. The true reason has to do with the Marranos themselves. And this is connected with the episode of Shabtai Tzvi. We know that in 1665, Shabtai Tzvi was proclaimed the Mashiach. So at that time, when the news reached Amsterdam, the Portuguese community went into a frenzy. The joy and the happiness knew no bounds. They even printed a special prayer which was recited in the synagogue in the honor of the new Mashiach. Then they went dancing in the streets with the scrolls of the law, as if it was Simchat Torah. And some of the wealthy members of the community even packed their bags and wanted to travel to Turkey to welcome the Mashiach. However, the happiness and the joy didn't last very long, because shortly after that, the Sultan in Turkey became worried about the agitation among the Jews, and he thought maybe that Shabtai Tzvi was represented a political danger to the country, so he put him in custody. And as a result of that, and the pressures exerted upon him, in 1666, Shabtai Tzvi converted to Islam. As an outcome, many Jews stopped to believe in him. However, others continued to believe in him despite the conversion. And some of them, which were old Marranos, by the way, even find some theological justification to explain why the Mashiach had to go become an apostate and convert to Islam. As a result of that, quite a few Jews in Turkey and in the Balkans, especially in Thessalonica, converted to Islam as well. However, in secret, they still behaved as Jews and kept Judaism. They considered themselves as Jews, but they had an ambivalent position, and they live in the duality of the sort. So as it comes out, the new Mashiach transformed some of his followers into a new kind of Marranos. If in Spain and in Portugal they had become Christian Catholics in public and secret Jews in private, now they had become Muslims in public and secret Jews in private. So what kind of a redemption was that? This is why Ramchal does not elaborate or keeps silent about the Mashiach. He didn't want to remind the old Marranos of their own painful past and of the false Mashiach who had transformed them, or at least some of them, into a new kind of Marrano. I want to finish with another episode back to Amsterdam, which happened in the beginning of the 18th century, also connected with Shabtai Tzvi. In 1710, a rabbi called Shlomo Ayalon became the chief rabbi of the Portuguese community in Amsterdam. Now, this Rabbi Ayalon was born in Thessalonica, and he had been exposed to Shabtaism after Shabtai Tzvi's apostasy and death. And he was a secret follower of Shabtai Tzvi. Later on, he went to Tzfat in Israel, and became a shaliach to raise funds for the community. Then he came to London, and the congregation, the Portuguese congregation, liked him, and he became their rabbi. However, when some of the members of the congregation found out about his Sabbatean background, they started to make trouble to him, and finally he left London and became the chief rabbi of the Portuguese community in Amsterdam in 1710, as we mentioned. In 1713-14 came to Amsterdam another believer in Shabtai Tzvi by the name of Nehemiah Chayun, who had written some mystical books in which there were Sabbatean ideas. And he came to Amsterdam in order to make some more disciples and followers. The chief rabbi of the Ashkenazi community, Rabbi Tzvi Ashkenazi, known as the Chacham Tzvi, asked right away Rabbi Ailon to expulse Nehemiah Chayun from Amsterdam because he had read his books and he knew that he was a secret follower of Shabtai Tzvi. However, Rabbi Ailon refused, and he protected Ailon and claimed that he protected the Chayun, and he even claimed that his books were fine, there was nothing wrong with them. At the end, it was the Chacham Tzvi, Rabbi Tzvi Ashkenazi, who had to leave Amsterdam because of the pressures exerted on him by the members of the Portuguese community, and it seems that there were even some threats that were leveled against him. So this is another added episode, more connected with the Amsterdam community, which shows that some 20-some years before Ramchal arrived in Amsterdam, there were still members of the community who were secret followers of Shabtai Tzvi. So this is for all those reasons that Ramchal did not mention Messianism, the Mashiach, and kept silent about everything. The memories were too painful for that. So that brings to an end this lecture, and I invite our viewers to look for our next stereo on the YouTube. The next one, God willing, will be about Mesilat Yesharim, the path of the upright. Thank you so much.